People on the phone.
Nobody joining us remotely at this time. People will be calling in later, but we're just recording.
Okay.
So welcome to our retreat, the Washington State Human Rights Commission retreat. And the theme is for commissioners to know what we do, how we do it, and what the roles and responsibilities are of the parties of these cases that we take. So our core mission, as I say, the core job function is to eliminate and prevent discrimination in Washington State. And we do that through applying fairly the law, which is RCW 4960, that guides us in what we do. And we establish partnerships within the community. And we have efficient use of resources. Now, it's easy to say, okay, so we make sure that we enforce the law, but let me just break that down. The law is the anti-discrimination. So in employment and in fair housing and public accommodation, that's buying and selling goods in brick and mortar stores within Washington State, the law says that folks are to be treated, customers, employees are, and housing, those who are in residential housing must be treated fairly. And what is fairly? They are not to, by law, they are not to be mistreated because of certain protected categories. And those things are characteristics of an individual by law that's protected. And as you all may be very aware, those kinds of protected categories, those kinds of things came about in the civil rights movement. And another way of saying human rights is civil rights. And so we're charged with ensuring that employers, fair housing providers, and brick and mortar store providers, business people are not mistreating others. And by way of these protected categories. Now, we must assume that the law is not, that people are acting lawful. And when they are not treated, when it's not lawful, then that means an investigation is determined. So oftentimes we tell people that just because somebody files a charge against you, we as an agency must stay neutral, and we will investigate that matter. And if it is established by evidence that it's occurred, then it's discrimination. Short of that, it's no discrimination. Now, we also dispose of cases through settlement. And if it does settle, that means that the parties, the complainant is willing to take something that the respondent is willing to give. And in exchange of the complainant dropping the charge. And so that's a way that we help enforce the anti-discrimination laws. Now, I think it's important for you all to know what my vision is for this agency. I want us to, the ideal is for us to resolve cases and respond to inquiries in a time frame that provides the people we serve with meaningful results. And we talked about it just briefly before we started, that there's a backlog, and a backlog of many months. how can you say that you are providing the people we serve with meaningful results when it takes so long to get there? I recognize that's a problem. And so we're hiring at all levels. We're looking at how to do our business better. Even our case management system, it's been in the works of getting another case management system. It is more than 20 years old. And so we're doing that as well. So as it relates to hiring at all levels, and we're looking at our processes. I think it's really important, particularly post-COVID, is for me to recognize that I must take into account employees' fitness, mental health, personal care, integrity, and as we do our daily work. I want employees to know that they are a priority. It's a new day for the day of the leader, the CEO, whomever, saying you do what's before you and that's it. No, I must take into account the mental health of my people, and because they have choices. They can go to they can do something else. And not only that, I think it's the work that we do can be stressful. And I want folks to be able to do good work in the long run. And I want a culture, a workplace culture that promotes folks being recognized for personal victories, big wins, small wins. It's all important for us to have an environment in which people want to work. And so that's what I wanted to share about the mission and my vision for the agency. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, we take into consideration, we involve the staff at all in the mission and vision.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We have all.
The mission and vision.
Yeah, I shared this mission and vision at an all staff meeting probably about 4 months ago. And I meet with managers regularly about any kind of issues or concerns that they may have with their staff. So it's more than, well, how many cases are they investigating? It has to do with talking about issues. If someone is displaying that something is going on, that there's trouble, I want my managers to investigate that, because we have to take into account the whole person. And that's why I want to have a culture in which I promote folks and they take advantage of opportunities to stay healthy.
Was there an opportunity for them to input with their comments of what mission and vision should be?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I would like Jerry Lee, which is the enforcement manager, and also Jim Owens, which is our new fair housing manager, to chime in as it relates to how they interact with their staff as we do our work. So the question is, do you all have an opportunity for staff to give you feedback in the way they do their work? So you can share about staff meetings that you have regularly, staff meetings and coachings and guidance that you give your folks.
I was asking specifically about the big picture, I find that it's very difficult to do a vision and mission statement, and I think research has found that when a staff is involved in doing it, they come up with a mission and vision that gets buy-in and makes them more committed, to the mission and mission and the work that they do.
Yeah, what I did in coming here, I met with each employee and asked, what is important to you? Why are you here? And tell me about who you are. And I took that feedback, and that's how I got my vision statement.
So basically, they are involved.
Pardon?
Basically, they were involved at the beginning
Yeah,
in the missions.
yeah, that's good.
Relatedly, I think every year we do an anonymous survey, essentially of the satisfaction with the agency, when things are going well, but things could be improved. So it's another outlet for ways to be able to give some feedback and help direct, what it is that mission looks like. So we would be, responsive to everybody's needs in the agency.
There's a number of committees that we as an agency are required to have. One of them is the DEI committee. So it's a spot in which diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's specific charges coming from the governor around how we're supposed to do a climate survey, like what Jim talked about, how we're supposed to incorporate frontline staff into looking at our practices, looking at our policies. So that's another outlet where we have frontline investigators kind of going through this recipe book that's been given to us in terms of evaluating our culture, evaluating our policies, having an opportunity to express themselves and give suggestions. So that's a structured committee that takes place regularly. Like the chair of it. And so, that's just another example of a place in which outside of the all staff meetings and outside of unit meetings, there's a structure in place to kind of gather some of that.
Yeah, I would just how the vision and mission have to put together.
Sure.
Good.
And I don't have anything else. Anybody else want to add to it? Okay. Then I thought that it would be really important for y'all to understand just how we do our work. And so we're gonna listen first to Jerry Lee, which is our operations manager, that will share with you how he does his work and his team. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. More meetings to go to.
Uh-huh. Yes, good to meet you, Patrick, and good to see you, Kristen.
Thank you, Allison.
Thanks, thank you.
Well, I just come up front.
Yeah.
Oh, good, please.
Yeah, I just made, just a quick folder. Now, you've already read those cases.
Yes.
But I provided them to you for a reason. I'll tell you.
Well, sure.
So, that's a little bit about me. I used to work for the Human Rights Commission years ago, some 20-something years ago, where I was an investigator in the Seattle office, became a operations manager for the Spokane office. Then they asked me to take over the Yakima office. Then they asked me to take over the Seattle office. And then city of Tacoma said, we're going to pay you a lot more money. So I became the EEO officer for the city of Tacoma. And since then I bounced around. I thought I was ready to retire. The city of Seattle asked me to come in and be their EEO officer for the fire department. And then I had done a free training for Lacey. And so the city manager asked me to be their interim HR director. And so as I was getting ready to retire, I told Cheryl Stroberg, who used to be here, that, hey, I'm getting ready to get out of here. I'm not going to be coming in the Lacey office anymore. So let's have lunch. and Cheryl asked me to come in back to fill the spot here at the Human Rights Commission, which was supposed to be for 6 months. And here we are 3.5, 4 years later. So my job here is to review, lead the employment and the accommodation section of our office. And God, we have so many rules and laws and processes. I didn't want to bore you with that. But I did want to talk about what I would call, I didn't put it in writing, but I call it the method for the madness. So here is just a little outline on the other side of this front part of this. It's just an outline on how we, how I move forward and how we move forward as an agency. So as of course, we have an intake process. And in that intake, the first thing we want to know is, what's your issue? Do we fit, do they have standing? We want to know if they have reached, did they articulate issues of harm that we under 4960 handle. We want to know if we have jurisdiction. So how do we do that? We look at the number of employees, we look at where they're located. This is a trying and interesting time because we have employees now who might have been hired in California, but they live in Washington State. And now they feel like they've been harmed. So we have to look at all the various employer in the state, do they do business in the state? So intake is not a cut and dry issue, as you know. Now with this remote work, we have a new interest.
So you're talking about employees of a company,
Yes.
or not your employees.
No, not my employees.
Okay.
I'm talking about in our investigation.
Yeah, that is.
We have employees who might have been hired in Houston or California, but now they live in Washington State. Is there a link? Do we have a state jurisdiction over their issue? You know, and so sometimes we have to do an analysis of that. Or sometimes people are hired here, companies here, but they live in Idaho. So, you know, so we have to do various drafts and things. But once we complete that process, we draft a charge, which basically they sign on saying, yes, this is my allegations. These are what's going on. So then you say, okay, so what happens then? Then it's assigned. We send out the charge. We send a copy of that to the employer and say, hey, employer, or hey, business, you've done something wrong. And somebody filed a complaint. And so then we go forward. They send us the response. If it's a matter of so many employees, we have a joint dual process with EEOC. If it's a public accommodation, it's just in-house. If it's 8 or less employees, it's just in-house. So it gets real fine, but I didn't want to bore you with all that stuff because that's information overload. But I did want to talk about what those findings that you get every month. What the heck are these? I mean, I know you realize that there are a conclusion of our investigation. I wanted you to also see that there is some madness to it, so reason to the madness. If you notice, so I put down, we try to have a memo structure with all our investigators. I always look at, first thing is, what are you recommending? So if you notice on the first paragraph, it always say, I recommend no reasonable cause, or we want to administratively close it, right at the front end, so you can see that. Then the next paragraph, generally, we have jurisdiction. How is that linked? So what you mean jurisdiction? They will say the employer is located in Spokane, Washington. They have X amount of employees. The reason we say that, it's for me to be able to review it and know right away that they have looked into seeing if in fact we have jurisdiction over this matter. Did they work for the employer? Yes, they will list in that paragraph the job title that they had. So if you notice our findings, you see a pattern that we try to continue to stay with that pattern because we streamline our finding because we have so many. And we find that in the best interest of the employee and the complainant, I'm sorry, and the respondent, streamlining, getting to the facts and trying to make it as link to what the harm was as possible. So that's the goal. The third paragraph, and sometimes paragraphs interchange, as you'll see it, but the third paragraph is the allegation. That's the chart. It says the complainant alleges and blah, blah, blah. And so now you look at it, you see what we recommend, you see that there's a link to the state. The next paragraph will talk about what they are saying, what's going on. And then the next paragraph, guess what? Now it's time to hear from the respondent. And so you usually see language such as the respondent denies discriminating against the complaint. And we look into that. So those are the 4 paragraphs. Sometimes they interchange, sometimes they overlap, but that is the structure that we try to promote. So our investigators are continuously looking at that, because there were times that investigators would start going down a path of investigation, find out we don't have jurisdiction. So this forces them to outline to you how we are linked to that particular, why we're doing this investigation. And then from there on, we tell the story. We talk about what they said, what the respondent says, and why. And then at the end of that, we have our conclusion. Here's why we believe that it's by a preponderance of evidence. What you don't see a lot of times in these findings is that we might believe that the complainant has been discriminated against. But the burden of persuasion, the preponderance of the evidence is such a high mark. It's 51% of evidence that reviewed. Sometime in our finding, we will say, complainant has not substantiated its allegation. Believe me, we are also saying that this investigation did not find evidence that supports the investigation. The burden usually shifts from complainant to the respondent. And on all our investigations, if you look at them, it's like a good tennis match where you see someone serve a ball at 100 miles an hour, you think it's going to be an ace, and then boom, they return it. And we go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So at the first time when we get an allegation, we say, this is terrible, this is cause. Then they write a response and we say, oh no, that's not a cause. And then it comes back to they replying to that. And so that's how we get to these findings. And that's why oftentimes when you see these findings, this is the process and the pattern that we're trying to get so that we make it easier for you, because you are the final make the final decision. If you notice, we say we conclude our investigations and we request or we recommend a no reasonable cause finding. You are the final voice, and so my role when those investigations come in is to look at it with a set of eyes to say, will the commissioner understand what you're trying to say? What you don't see is there's a lot of rewrites that go on. There's a lot of discussions that go on. And when I first came back, I noticed that we were in what we call silos. Our investigators now, and not only are they encouraged, but they actually meet with each other to bounce off their ideas. And so most of the investigations and funding that you get, they've been touched by more than 5 or 6 people. Everybody share any kind of complex, and if it's very complex, we will go to some of our senior investigators and other. I'm not even shy to contact other agencies to ask, hey, I know you're really good at this or this. So that's what we do, and that's what you get, and that's the work. And from time to time, some commissioners will find that we didn't articulate in our findings. What? And they say, hey, no, this isn't good enough. What you mean she was harassed? You didn't. Sometimes we didn't articulate in the finding.
Right.
And sometimes we missed it. And when we miss it, we say, hey, come back. What I would like to encourage, though, is if you find that you have a heartburn, call me or contact the office, let me know ahead of time. Because my investigators, we usually are on eggshells when we have commission meeting, hoping that these cases go through, because they worked hard on them and they want to know that the case go through. And if there's some questions in advance if I can't answer them, because sometimes these cases, you read so many, they start blending together. But I tell you, the investigators have a strong hand on it, and I could always call them up even at any time, and they could, I'm at the store right now, but let me tell you about that case, because they really are invested in their investigation. So that's what it is in the findings. The short findings is what is sent to the respondent and the complainant, and it basically is a small summary of what's found. So you'll see my signature on there, and you'll see the investigator's signature on there, and then it explains what no reasonable cause is, or what causes, or what have you. And so that's why you have the short finding. And then we have, if you see a settlement, you notice I'm the last person to sign the settlement. It's been reviewed, not just by me, but we have Janice Whitman, who handled those. She's the lead. She understands. She's a subject matter expert. So we run that past her. They bring it back to me. If I have questions, I ask. So we really have a robust process in touching these cases by a lot of hands, not just relying on me, not just relying on the investigator before it comes to you. And there's times, that there could be a political issue, then we run it over to the director and say, please take this.
Yeah.
Then we hide. But we try to do those kind of things to make sure that you have a clear understanding. Now, in terms of outreach, we haven't been really performing the outreach as much as we used to, but we're starting up. Since COVID, we stopped meeting in public, but now the outreach requests are coming. And I would say to any commissioners that if they want to really go out and do outreach or have any kind of interaction with the public, if you talk to us about it, we keep, I always try to remind, I was in a public meeting just last month and was asked questions, well, you're the Human Rights Commission. Well, the Human Rights Commission title puts us in a very vulnerable situation. What do you think about Israel? So I just come back with, we are responsible for the RCW 4960, the wall anti-discrimination laws in the state of Washington. That's the lane I'm staying in, and that's the voice I'm going to speak from. And then there may be times I say, now, if that sounds like a policy issue, you may want to take that up with the commissioner and the director. That's how I handle those things. Same thing for you. If you feel that it's outside the realm and you don't want to get to a point, you can sometimes request an investigator to go with you if you think you're going to be in an outreach with people who have concerns or problems, have particular questions. If we know in advance, we can have an investigator go who would be have the experience that could answer their specific question. And we really harp on staying in our lane with RCW 4960. And I'm they enjoy speaking with the public. And we've been doing outreach in farm unit of farm workers' rights and other rights. But we are looking at how we can also meet with employers, because our goal is to really fulfill our mission. And the underlying tone of that is to have this state be one of the greatest states in the United States where people want to come work, where they're free of discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. And that's what we really work hard on doing. We want employees want to come here. We want employers to treat their employees well so that employees will want to come. And that's about it.
In the case, I have a question. In the case of communication, as a commissioner, I'm invited to a radio station, a radio program, WNPR, public radio. And since I'm a minister, I know you can ask a question about the commissions and stuff like that. And then I'm reading about the commission. I'm reading I'm online and read all I can about what we do and stuff like that. And it's extensive amount of work that we do. What we do is a lot of responsibility. But I'm not clear on speaking about it yet because I'm not. See, I like to be on top of my game when I do something. So, and especially that public radio goes all over the country. you know, so I'm facing with
Mhm.
on the 30th. Supposed to, but I already know I'm a, should I know the public some pressure, so I'm gonna try to talk the least I can and just say what we stand for, and but I just want you guys to know that I'm being motivated. And they're gonna ask a question about my organization, Jasmine Ministries, and things that I do. Well, in the town, they know that I'm a mission. So of course, yeah, so I just want to put you on. And that's why I'm glad I come here and get more.
Well, the greatest thing that I learned in law school is the statement that I'll get back with you. Good question, and I'll get back with you. That is your get out of jail
Yeah,
card.
that's just good.
Trust me.
That's good.
If someone comes to me, I get housing questions all the time, and I said, that is excellent. I will get back with you. I will check on my staff, or I will check with the manager of housing or something, and I punt it. But I also will always look back and make sure that was answered.
Okay.
So don't try to, because it's, yeah.
Run, but you have to.
Well, and they pleased with it too,
Well,
when they know that you heard what they said. Because we tell a lot of our complaints, look, we believe you, but based on the law by preponderance of evidence, we haven't been able to substantiate.
and yeah, and one thing I realize people don't know that we have limits. Like when you say human rights, people think you could be going out there in the street and then defend people, or you're going to be an activist or something. That's what they think. They think
Right.
activism, but this is not activism. This is giving people, a way to defend themselves or to present what they have and to complain and to have an answer for the complaints. So this is like we're like a mediator, right? That's what we call them. So, but people don't know that out there. They think that we're just that for it and all that. So
Yeah, just a quick question, because I see that our time is almost up.
Yes.
How many staff investigators do you have now, and how are they? How many are in the various types of areas of concentration?
We have about 13 employment investigators accommodation. I should get the exact number and I will give that to you. I'll look at our chart
Okay,
again.
yeah, just
And then we have about, and we'll let the housing manager tell you 6 or 5. I can't remember how many. I try to stay in my lane.
Jim is sure
But
about
how
her
many
housing.
investigators who perform the housing.
So on the housing team, we have 2 specialists. We have 2 specialists. They're investigator tours. And they have an incredible amount of experience. I think between the 2 of them, they have 35+ years of experience. Just at this.
yeah, I noticed that there.
And then we have 5 other investigators and then myself. So we have a team of 8.
but you guys mostly stay on just the complaint from HUD only or from all housing?
Throughout the state of Washington. Yeah,
Throughout the state.
throughout the state of Washington, the only cases that we don't take are within the city limits of Tacoma.
Okay.
They have their own agency that handles the investigations there. Everything else is us.
Wow.
And that 13 for employment, public accommodations and all that stuff.
We need a lot more, and we are planning to hire some more investigators.
Yeah.
We're gonna put, we may put 2 in housing and 2 in.
Okay, where was the backlog? The greatest.
You mean in what area of?
Yeah, in the.
Well, if I looked at that, we get slammed a lot of times. For one time, when Boeing had a major layoff based on age, we're slammed. All of a sudden, we have all these places. We had COVID, and people were filing based on religion because they were losing their jobs, and we get slammed. So I would say generally, we cover most of the areas are most equally across the board, but then all of a sudden, one area come in, we get inundated in that area. So if something huge happens, God forbid again, and we get these sizable complaints, charges, and we only, investigators basically are charged with 60 cases a year, 5 cases a month. That averages out. And some of these cases are so complex, we don't even meet that threshold, but we really try to. And so we're streamlining them in all kind of ways. We're doing settlements instead of doing full investigations. We're having mediation kind of thing. We're trying to find a way that we can really keep up with that, but it's challenging sometimes.
But it's good because you're on demand. See,
Yeah.
when an organization is on demand, people need the service. That shows you that you're doing something good. See, that's the right thing. So it's the right thing to have too much work. Yeah, it is, because it's on demand. So that's why we have the way we have to look at it. Look at it that it's on demand. More work is needed.
Hopefully we do enough work that we never have to do any discrimination investigation
Right.
again. Probably a little unrealistic, but that's the goal. That's the mission of the agency. But nonetheless, yeah, we're happy to do the work and happy that people are knowledgeable enough to reach out to us.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think this is a good segue.
Yeah.
This is a good segue
Yeah,
for
pull your chair.
Jim.
Come on.
And
Right.
before I leave, I look forward to commissioners and
Yes.
you drumming and letting people know what.
Let me
we
have,
do.
let me have
Yes.
this part.
I don't have any left,
Well, tell me-
but I'll get it to you.
Who replaced Cheryl?
We haven't hired.
We haven't hired that
Okay,
person
I was
yet.
wondering what happened to that position.
Yeah, actually, it was Jacqueline that was in that position and so she didn't stay long with us.
Good.
And so now I'm,
You
uh,
yeah. I think this is, I'm sorry if I jump in.
no,
I think your reports are clear enough, the language.
Well, thank you. We
And-
tried.
Don't get me wrong, I have no problem reading them. I did this so many though.
Yeah.
So I may have to get me a software to read them for me.
Well, no, but do you read aloud?
You know, yeah,
You have it on your laptop.
really,
That will save you.
because I sit down and read everything, you know?
It makes my life so much. Have you
You
seen
know?
it read aloud on your computer?
I've
Look
never-
for it
never-
on the-
No, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was there.
Yeah,
Oh my God, it helps on reading these things. I know exactly what you're
And
saying.
where are you based now, Jared?
Other than home, Seattle office, I'm in the Office of Insurance Commission on Third Avenue. Yeah, we share space with them in Spokane,
Okay.
and they give us space in their Seattle office.
Oh, they're close by me in Spokane, right at the
Right,
big building that, yeah. I know that.
yes.
Right close to the city, right in the city itself.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So it's really great location,
Okay.
really good support.
so thanks, Jerry. And now we have Jim Owens. He is our fair housing manager that's gonna share with you today.
That's good.
So I'm gonna give you a general overview of housing. Kind of like Jerry said, the intricacies are far too many to go into.
Sure.
But I do want to extend an invitation that anytime you have questions about specific statutes or specific types of discrimination, you're always welcome to reach out to me. I've only been with the agency for a little over a year now, but I feel like I have a pretty good amount of experience with fair housing. And if I don't know it, we have an expansive knowledge in the team. So we can always answer your questions. Don't ever feel like you can't reach out and get some specifics. If you want to get into the nitty gritty, we're happy to do that. So what I want this to be is kind of a way for you to kind of understand what we do and understand how that applies to your interactions with people and how you can use that. A couple things that I think are important. So Jerry gave you kind of like the nuts and bolts, or the machinery before you even see these findings. And I think it's important to know that this is just the tip of the iceberg. You get the distilled version of all the work that we've done. And so, you may read through it and you may not have all of your questions answered, But it may just be because those questions didn't necessarily need to be in the finding. It may not be because we missed it or we forgot about it. And so like Jerry said, if you have those kind of outstanding questions, reach out to us before the meeting. Because we probably can't answer those questions for you and point to work that was done that address those. Additionally, one thing that you often won't see is that if, at least in the housing field, if we have a no reasonable cause finding, but during the course of the investigation, we came across some things that were concerning, didn't rise to the level of discrimination in this case. We couldn't necessarily find evidence to support it, but maybe they have some policies or some practices that could be problematic and could cause issues in the future. We can issue them a technical advisory. And so we will draft a letter that says, here's some things that we noted in the investigation. We're not finding that discrimination occurred here, but we want you to know that if these things aren't addressed, you risk discriminating in the future. And we will provide guidance on how to fix those things or how to revise policies.
Good.
So you may be like thinking after you read a finding, like, why are we not addressing this? This seems a little bit questionable. It may just be that we couldn't find enough evidence to find reasonable cause, but we're still acting upon it and doing what we can to educate so that it doesn't happen again. So, and again, ask us if you have those questions.
How often do you do that?
It really depends. It's not super common. More often what happens is if we find these issues during the investigation, we can use those issues to spur the respondents to settle the case. And in the housing sector, we are required to put public interest terms into our settlements. And those are going to be things that help educate them, help change their policies so that they don't potentially discriminate in the future. And so instead of issuing a technical advisory after a finding, we might take that same information and say, like, you know, you could settle this case, you could agree to make these changes, and then this case gets dismissed. So you don't have to worry about a reasonable cause finding. So that's another way that we,
So they get advice,
Yeah, they get advice, they get training. We don't take a stance that anybody is a bad actor.
Right.
We take a stance that they need to be educated and they need the advice to be able to not do that in the future. And so we'll make that as easy for them as possible. We'll provide resources for them to find training. If there's certain technical advice that we can just give them, we'll do that as well. So yeah, we provide many ways for people to comply with the laws.
Is that done in employment also?
Yes, it is.
There's
And
a lot of
it has
cases,
to
you
do
know.
with our mission, because we are to prevent and eliminate. And so there's a number of tools that we have to actually do that. And giving them advisory letters is one of the things.
Yeah, I agree with Justin that there were a lot of cases that, there probably wasn't evidence, but clearly a lot of concern.
Right.
Yeah, and
I think it's a tool that could be
could be
very
solved.
useful, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yes.
we're restricted in what we're able to find reasonable cause for.
Yeah.
And we have very specific elements that we have to meet. And if we have a single element that we can't meet, that we don't have evidence to support, we don't get to issue that reasonable cause finding. But that doesn't mean that we don't still have tools in our toolbox to address the issues that came up.
And I do want to say that we do a service for respondents when we do that, because when somebody files a charge within the housing facility or in employment, it takes them, they use a lot of resources to defend that charge.
Right.
And so we help them out by saying, hey, you can clean this up so you won't get the charge.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, because I've always seen that, many times I've seen the public interest, there's no public interest in this, and I really didn't know what they were referring to.
Yeah, if it's a housing settlement, there has to be public interest terms involved. I won't accept our settlements if there's not. They can always look different. They're not always exactly the same. So it may be based on the circumstances of the case and what makes sense.
And then what's public? How do you define that?
A,
Public
a
interest?
typical public interest term that would be in a settlement is that they do training, that they participate in some
No, no,
training.
what is a public instrument? Public interest that spurs,
Yes, the idea is that by forcing them to do training or to revise their policies, they are ensuring that other members of the public do not get discriminated against. So doing those things is in interest of the public.
Yeah.
That's the thought process. But another thing that I just wanted to hit before I kind of get through my prepared stuff, because this came up earlier, just to kind of explain how we support our investigators and how we give them feedback and allow them to give feedback to us. Within the housing section, I have standing meetings with every one of the investigators every week. And that is a blocked off time where they get to come to me and talk about any of their cases, any of their issues that they're trying to work through, and really just anything else that's coming up. It's a time for them. If I have some particular guidance that maybe I noticed something in a finding or reviewing one of their files, we'll talk about it at that time. But mostly it's for them to get support. We bounce ideas off each other and figure out what route we should take on an investigation, because sometimes it's not very clear. So they all have that opportunity. And then we also have a standing weekly meeting for the whole team. Every Thursday afternoon, we have a drop-in meeting where anybody who wants to can join. And they're not obligated. The investigators don't have to show up, but most of the time they all do. And that's, again, just a time for the collective brain work of the team to work on problems, to kind of like bring to people's attention something that might have come up, to say like, hey, this issue came up, here's how I dealt with it. What do you think of that? Or is this something that the team should kind of adopt? So we work together a lot to make sure that the support is there. If there's anything that I have realized in the short time that I've been the manager, is that support, the investigators have been yearning for support, and they've been trying to find it. Because of turnover, we just didn't always have that available.
Right.
But it's very clear that they want it, they appreciate it, and I think it's making a better work product that you end up seeing in terms of the findings, in terms of the thoroughness of the investigation. So we're getting there, and we're starting to get more investigators on board as well, which helps kind of relieve a little bit of the stress of how many cases they know are sitting in the backlog waiting for them. So I think it's all great things. I think that I'm super excited about the team that I have. I think that we do fantastic work. And I think everybody's there for the right reasons. So yeah, that's just kind of the rundown of the team. In terms of housing in general, I just wanted to give you a quick insight as into what housing is. So for the housing team, we enforce essentially two statutes. The Fair Housing Act, the federal statute 42 USC sections 3601 through 3619. Those are the ones that we're responsible for. And the Washington Law Against Discrimination, RCW 4960. And it's 222 through 224 are the ones that specifically address housing. We are able to enforce both of those because HUD has determined that our Washington laws against discrimination is substantially equivalent to the Fair Housing Act. So what does that mean? It means that most of the language was copy and pasted from the Fair Housing Act. It's very similar, but it's not completely equivalent. There are differences. So one of the main differences is the Fair Housing Act. In all of the sections, it refers to dwellings. And in the Washington Law Against Discrimination, it refers to real estate transactions. You have any idea like why that would be significant, or how that changes what we're able to investigate, dwellings versus real estate transactions?
I don't know, real estate transactions.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a particular definition.
Pretty broad. isn't it?
It is pretty broad. And so what that covers is things like commercial real estate transactions. So the Fair Housing Act only deals with dwellings. Those are places that people live.
Yeah.
Real estate transaction in Washington covers commercial businesses. You know, if you're engaged in a real estate transaction, you're purchasing a property to run a business, or you have a lease to run your business out of somebody else's property, you're actually covered. And we don't see it very often, but it just gives you a sense of kind of how expansive the coverage is in Washington compared to the federal act. Additionally, another big difference is the exceptions that are in the two acts. The Fair Housing Act has exceptions whereby the statutes don't apply in certain situations. So if somebody doesn't own 3 or more single-family homes, they may not have to follow the Fair Housing Act. Or if they have like a 4-unit building or a house with 4 rooms, and they live in one of those units or rooms, they also may not have to follow the Fair Housing Act. However, in Washington, those don't always apply. And for the most part, even if they have, one house, or even if they have a house that they live in and share rooms, they may still be subject to the Washington law against discrimination. So I say this because that means in Washington, it is very expansive, the protections for housing, much different than the Federal Fair Housing Act. Do you have, so you have the slides there as well, I think, just to make sure. Okay, well, yeah.
So you have a handout.
Yeah.
That's good.
Which one
Yeah.
is, I just want to make sure.
Just because there's like a little bit of a list. Perfect.
Which one?
Yeah. So,
No, I'm talking about the,
yeah,
I
so
thought,
this is the one that I'm going through.
I thought you were,
Yeah.
that you were the first
And-
handout.
So there's a number of things that are considered an unlawful practice in housing. I have.
That's not it. Did you have one that says housing?
Oh,
Yeah, so go to like the,
right here. You get that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
and then. Keep up with what it is that I'm about. So here we are. What is considered unlawful or an unfair practice? So you'll see a pretty big list there. That is not exhaustive, nor does it take into account all the permutations of what could be an unfair practice in housing. But this list will give you a sense of all the things that we've covered and maybe help you kind of be more aware of, like, when you hear something or you talking to somebody who's dealing with situations that maybe fall into these categories, that kind of, might spur you to some sort of action we'll get to shortly. So refusing to engage in real estate transactions, so like not negotiating with somebody because of their protected class, refusing to transmit offers, discriminatory terms, conditions, or privileges, so charging somebody higher rent because of their protected class, imposing more significant rules, or limiting their access to the different facilities. Misrepresentation of availability, just simply telling them, oh, we don't have any housing available, or steering them into particular housing, like basically segregating people away into a particular area. Refusing to rent or renew, or evicting, or even attempting to evict, could be discriminatory. Discriminatory statements and advertising. This covers a lot, but really the most important part is that the statement or the advertising would indicate a preference or limitation. So it doesn't even have to be that they're just saying we don't want this particular type of person. Even if they say we only want this kind of person, or these type of people are welcome, if they're not welcoming of all, then that statement could be discriminatory. Refusing to permit reasonable modifications and accommodations. This is the most common thing that we see. It is a huge majority of our cases. And this is all related to disability and the need of having an accommodation and a rule or a policy for them to get full enjoyment out of housing, or for them to be able to physically modify where they live so they can get full enjoyment of the housing opportunity. And then coerce, intimidate, threaten, or interfere with enjoyment of rights. Think harassment, think retaliation. It covers a lot of different things. But that's really just kind of instead of like particular terms that that are being applied. It's kind of a treatment, a general treatment that they're receiving. So if you go to the next one, so who's protected? I could ask the trick question, like how many people in Washington do you think are protected under the Washington Law Against Discrimination? And the answer is everybody. Absolutely everybody falls within the protected classes. Like you can even be covered by the act just by having association with somebody who's being discriminated because of the protected class. So every person that you come across can be covered by the Washington Law Against Discrimination and the Fair Housing Act, and they may have rights that they can enforce. So who's covered? There's a list of like different people that are involved in real estate transactions. It's pretty expansive. This is not to say that in every situation, all of these people will be covered under the act. Sometimes it's very fact specific. You won't really see that work beforehand, but just keep in mind that just about any kind of housing situation you can think of is probably covered by the act.
What does service provider mean? How does that have to do with housing?
Yeah, so I mean, part of the use and enjoyment of your housing is to be able to have utilities, right?
Oh, that kind of service.
Yeah, and so if a service provider is refusing to provide you with utilities because of your protected class, then that can be covered under the act. And then so the last page, what does this mean for you? The fact that we have such an expansive law, the fact that so many people are covered under this, I think the one real key takeaway is that everybody you interact with is a potential party in one of our cases. Whether they are being discriminated against or potentially discriminating against somebody, every person you interact with could be involved in one of our cases. So it's really important, and I think that there's people that will touch on this a bit more in terms of ethics and how we carry ourselves. But we are a neutral fact-finding agency. We do not advocate. As Jerry said, we stick to our lane. We stick to the law. That's what we do. So you just do need to be careful that, anytime you're having conversations, there isn't advocacy in terms of like taking a stance of, people who are bad actors or necessarily, just always believing exactly what comes in a complaint. I mean, we have to investigate the facts, see what they say, and that determines what we do. So the other thing that I think is important is that since everybody is affected by and covered by the act, it also means that everybody you interact with could benefit from knowing about the agency. Maybe they are in a situation right now where they are potentially being discriminated against and they don't know what to do. Knowledge of the agency is what helps us take care of those situations. Maybe they sometime in the future they'll run across the situation and it might not have occurred to them. They might not have known what to do, but potentially having that conversation about what the agency is and what it does might spur them in the future to know where to come when that situation comes up. And so every interaction is an opportunity to educate. You already know that we investigate complaints. I think that's an easy thing to tell people that, hey, we investigate complaints. So if you have an issue, you should bring it to the agency. But things like technical guidance, advising people that we can also provide you with information to make sure that you don't end up in this situation, especially housing providers. There's a lot of housing provider covers a lot of people, including, just a landlord that only owns one rental home and doesn't have a lot of training and doesn't know exactly how to work through this process. They can reach out to us and we will give them guidance on how to do it right. And so anybody you interact with they're potentially a housing provider. They're going to be having housing in some fashion. So they should know that, like, hey, we're here to give you the guidance to work your way through whatever housing situation you have. Direct them to the website. I mean, just send them to the human rights website. I mean, we have a ton of information on there people can and frequently get their questions answered just by looking at the website, but it's also just gives them an idea of who we are and what we do. And then lastly, find out if they need more information. You may not have the tools to be able to inform them fully, but we do. So if you want to, I mean, if you want to find out, like, what do they need? Do they need just a bit of technical guidance? So like maybe you could reach out, send them to reach out to us and we'll provide that to them. Do we need to go do a training? Because outreach is one of our obligations here. It's something that we have to do. And it's something that we want to do to make sure that we're spreading the word about what discrimination is and how we avoid it. So find out what they need, because we can, you know, in some instances, we can come provide a training. We have, we're working right now on a training that we're going to be providing in Spokane in September. It is the Fair Housing Washington Conference, which deals with low-income housing. So those are just all opportunities for you to educate people and inform them what we do. And then, you know, let us deal with the intricacies. We'll make sure they know exactly what's up, so that they can go out there and, you know, follow the law and make sure that nobody has to file a complaint with us. You know, maybe somebody put us out of business. We don't have to investigate cases.
Thanks, Jim.
That's-
Any questions or?
Oh, thank you, this is very helpful. Yeah, very helpful. We've done that much housing,
Yeah.
something similar to this for public accommodations, because I'm not really clear on that.
Actually, you could ask some questions on public accommodation. That's Jerry's area. He deals with employment and public accommodation.
Okay.
So, why don't we, because I'm thinking people may need a break,
Yeah,
right
that's
quick, like, okay. And then when we come back, then right before, Justinian, shares, you have a question about a public accommodation. Jerry, why don't you just kind of share a little bit more about public accommodations, and then we'll go ahead. So we'll go ahead and take a break. There's the key for the restrooms, over here. You have to, it's right